Go, Sean. It's in between.
All right, so I was just looking at all the Tamagotchis you could get, and they've got stuff like One Piece ones and Spy versus Family and
Spy X Family.
Spy Family. They got Jurassic World ones, Kingdom Hearts. They
I
have
wasn't aware
Toy
people did
Story
these
ones,
anymore.
Pac-Man. I didn't either, but I pulled out the instructions. I mean, now given it's in 7 languages, but
Holy
both
shit.
sides, so it's lots to do on how to cover up Grogu with a blanket, how to play with him. If Grogu goes to sleep, he goes to sleep for a little while, and you can't do anything else with him until he wakes up. I mean,
I'm just going to warn you.
Why can't this be an app?
Mine's going to die. I just know it.
Why can't this just be an app?
You're going to try to make it die.
No, I won't try, but I know what'll happen is I'll get caught. It's just like when we talk about Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes that I forget something's going on or I'm get involved in life. And sure enough, I'm going to look over and R2's going to be like in a pile of oil. Like
There you go, Richard. You can get my Tamagotchi forever for the app. You can app it up.
Yeah, it is
All right.
kind of weird that this is still a actual device you buy.
Digital device, yeah. And it's doing so well that has that many brands under it. Yeah.
All right, so let's figure out what the in-between beyond that is.
I was going to talk about Transformers because you brought up if
Okay,
we'd seen
go.
the Transformers movies. And I actually saw the first one. I think I saw most of Bumblebee at home.
Bumblebee is a sweet, kind of good character, correct?
Bumblebee is
He
a
is in the movies, yeah.
yeah. He's a VW bug originally. And
I
then
knew
they
it was a
turned him
good
into-
guy. That's all I knew.
in the
about it.
movie.
in their
yeah.
Corvette or
And
something.
Optimus Prime, is that a bad guy or
He's
not?
a good
good
guy.
guy.
Megatron's a bad guy.
Thank you. Okay, please.
So
go ahead.
anyway, where I was going with this is these are already unrecognizable machine imagery when they're in their when they're in their vehicle dinosaur modes. They're recognizable properties.
Okay.
But the minute you take them out and turn them into their robot entities, for me, the movie CG just became messy because I
Garbage.
didn't know what I was looking at.
Yeah.
I couldn't visually tell that this random arm tire
Well, yeah,
is punching
they-
the head of a like
They look very similar, very metallic parts all together that it looked like an arm, but when you have an arm punching another arm that look exactly the same, you can't distinguish like you can with a human
Right.
flesh and stuff. It
and
looks
at
like
least
two-
when
No,
and
go
when
ahead.
they would do Terminator, at least Terminator was a humanoid figure, so I could kind of see the simplicity of the Terminator, but not when you have these two giant robots that they've had to unfold from their vehicle form to kind of largely keep them close to their vehicle form. It works in a cartoon because you can use these bright primal colors. You can have a very simple animation to kind of allow you to see the blocks.
Right.
But the minute they went to the CG, the movie was, every time there was a battle scene, I'm like, that's a mess. I have no idea what's going on. And that's largely why I didn't want to watch it anymore. It wasn't really that I
you were offended by the stories.
wasn't a fan of Michael Bay or whatever. It was just that I just visually could not tell what was happening in action sequences, and I'm like, this is too much for me.
Do you know that's one of the reasons that I do not like the climactic lightsaber duel in Revenge of the Sith, because Obi-Wan and Anakin both have blue lightsabers, and it just looks like a whir of. And I feel like Anakin, if he had already had a red one at that point, it adds to that. It just that simple differential makes it like, oh, I get what's happening.
Well, speaking of differential, have you seen people like debating the lightsaber colors in the Ahsoka trailer? The bad guys, it's not red, it's orange.
Oh, I did hear something
and
about
that
that.
Filoni saying that Vader sometimes when he would, because of the way it was composited in Star Wars, sometimes it would actually look orange when he was swinging it. And that's how he's kind of using that as justification.
It's those things that there's a folklore built to it, but at the same time, those simple ideas of
A different, I mean, it's almost like an in between. It's not the angry red, but it's also not blue. You kind of got
Right.
it off of red a little bit. I mean, if Mace Windu can have purple, what color? What is color? You got a black one with a white outline. What does
Yeah.
an orange one matter?
I mean, they may not have gone into the battle sequence thinking that the two same colored lightsabers were going to cause the problem that it was going to cause to visual
Maybe
seeing
not.
stuff. But when you're coordinating some type of fight or dance or anything, you really need to have that down visually in a simple format so your audience can follow what's
Absolutely.
going on. I mean, unless your goal is just complete and total chaos. But I see it in comic book panels all the time where, you know, the art doesn't necessarily
the colors
convey what
yeah.
art doesn't necessarily convey what the action needs to happen for me to
Right.
follow what's happening. Happens in all comics all the time because your storyteller is now different, right? Your
I think that to that example, if you have is it Bizarro that is the
Backward Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would almost guarantee without seeing a panel in front of me, his costume may be similar to Superman, but there are differences to it to where when I
It's
visually
a darker color,
slightly off of it, so that when I'm looking, I can see that. It's when you start doing those things and you can't. So I get what you're saying about the Transformers. It's funny because the trailers I would see, I was like, it just looks like a mess of machines to me.
It does.
is.
It visually comes
It's 'cause
across
it
like
is.
that. You know, to call out a specific book, there was a book that Sean recently picked up the graphic novel for that I was reading in single issues.
Doom Patrol. Or?
No, now I'm drawing a blank. Vertigo. James Tinian. Nice House on Lake.
Oh, okay, nice.
Nice House on Lake. And I'm so used to comic books with characters being in superhero outfits that when you do a cast of just regular people wearing street clothes that change day to day as they change their clothes,
And reflect a personality.
you really need to give them some types of distinguishing features or hair or glasses or even a skin tone or something so I can distinguish them from one another.
Well, I think,
and sometimes when you take those same characters that in Nice House on the Lake, as much as I couldn't follow who people were
Right.
because they would move them in and out of shadow. So even if you're looking for something related to skin tone, sometimes characters would take their glasses off. Sometimes they would change their outfits from the next day.
Right.
And they weren't calling out their name every 5 seconds. So it was really hard for me to follow that book on a single issues because I couldn't tell who the characters were.
I don't know who the artist was, but there was an artist that said a really good comic book character, you can just tell who they are by their silhouette. Their hairstyle, the body style. You can just say, silhouette, hey, that's Superman. Silhouette, hey, that's Batman.
Right.
Silhouette, hey, that's Wonder Woman. You see the rope on
Right.
her, and so you've got to have good design features to be able to pick things out easily. Yeah.
I think back to and it was a great lesson I learned when I was in school. We would go out and shoot stuff, and I was shooting something one day, and what they would allow us to do. If you were that director, you assembled, did all the choices like you would. And I remember that I wanted 2 young kids. It was supposed to be era, and I thought, put them in T-shirts, roll up the things like this. Well, we put them both in white T-shirts. And when we got the film back, I looked at them like, even though you two don't look anything like, but I put you both in white T-shirts, it's like your eyes got confused. Yeah. And my teacher, guy named Dave,
Unless you were planning on doing that.
yeah, and when we looked at it, he's like, do you know the problem? And I was like, they look alike. He said, I saw it the day you were doing it, but I knew the only way you would do this and learn from it is if I let you make this mistake. And I looked at my footage, and my footage was shit.
Yeah.
But that's what you have to do, and that's the weird thing. So and when Abby fell in love with The Outsiders, if you ever watch that, a bunch of hooligans wearing white T-shirts, except that one will have a blue jacket over it, and they've sliced the shoulders off, so that's who that is. Those little bitty, or they might have black piping on the shirt.
Or think about, the Bad Batch or something like that. We have all these clones that are exact same. They give them different things, a tattoo on a face, or maybe one's a little bit bigger than the other one, or one's
Everyone
blind
has to
in
have
an eye.
something.
Yeah.
It's different when we do just a movie like this, and it's just normal clothing. But again, today this would work. Richard's wearing a peanut shirt that's gray. You're wearing black on black and a hoodie, and I've got on pretty much a very vibrant blue. Those would work, but you get into those things like that. I think that's one reason I don't like those kind of movies, just because they look like a mush.
Well, and not to call it Nice House on the Lake again, but they would advance days, and so if you're going to do distinguishing outfits for your characters, they need to, as the days change or
deteriorate, show wear and tear,
or they need
wrinkles.
If we revisited the same video the next day, and the 3 of us were wearing something completely different. Right? Storytelling, you'd have to make sure we saw something different, but we're changing our clothes as we move through it. We're not always wearing the same yellow shirt with a zigzag across it for Charlie Brown. Right? But so how do you balance those two things?
It's the same as that if you go watch those, what is it, X and Pearl, and they're about to make another one of that. The first one, when they go down to that ranch and they're making a porn, where you've got a black guy, a white guy, you've got 2 white girls, but none of them, the white girls, one's blonde, one's a darker head. That you have those things that make your eye go, I immediately. It's much like the profile thing. There's something about you that's different than that person. I don't ever doubt who you are.
Yeah.
Well, we ended up having little filmmaking talk there. On top of it, it's not just pop culture bullshit today. Anything else? That's
Well, I know Richard's got work he needs to get to.
I do. I'm looking at Mia
Database.
Goth though.
well. The only
What
thing
was that
is,
movie we just saw? We saw her in Infinity Pool. That's right.
she's an interesting actress.
We
Just
saw
call
her
an
in Infinity
actor.
with Alexander
You're
Skarsgård.
right.
Did we finish watching?
But at the
Infinity
same
Pool?
time, Morgan Freeman tells me we got
Yeah.
to get away from worrying about that because you're not being.
You don't go to a
disrespectful.
doctoress. You don't go to a doctoress. You don't go to a
doctress.
dentist. You go to a doctor and a dentist.
I'm 56 years old. When I make the mistakes, I'll own them and I'll
Right.
say whatever.
I'm struggling a little bit right now with when our postal carrier comes in because I was going to call him a postman.
Postal delivery.
Postal carrier.
Postal carrier. I know it.
Sounds a little weird.
Ooh,
Sanitation worker.
Nielsen ratings are now saying that The Mandalorian's viewership has increased over time with this season. The big headlines had been that it had gone down. Now it's going back up.
Really? I wonder
Well,
what-
you know, they got too woke and they go broke, right? And
Did they get woke?
Did they? I don't know. Did DeSantis declare this for us yet?
Chuds will find some reason to hate it. Well, you know, because Ahsoka was on it at some point. No, because Bo-Katan's got the sword now. No, because, I mean, who cares? Fuck them. Fuck them.
I am so glad that the company I work for is bringing back their old groups board because we see that people are, and if you look at the numbers, people are turning away from social media for that reason. You know, you go to Facebook with my 3D printing, there are Facebook groups for it.
Yeah.
Mostly those are pretty nice, but you'll go to other Facebook groups where they're just demeaning and nasty. Well, we're bringing that stuff back because it's like we're going to moderate it and there's no nastiness to this. And why can't we go back to that? Why do we have to be that I'm the nerd that knows the most and this is stupid and it's
Because
I don't care.
Some people want to be gatekeepers, and if it's not made to their specifications and it's crap, and you know, even though they don't own it, you know, I grew up with Star Wars. So I'm the only one that knows exactly how it should be, even though I don't work for the company and don't
Right.
make any of these decisions.
So you're saying they're bringing back the boards because people want that kind of interaction again, and they're being disillusioned by the Twitter, so on.
their market research is that's kind of where they're going with that. And it's like they've had, and it's funny because I even told Shell, I was listening to one of our internal things and I said, wow, why don't they go back to that? Sure enough, like within a month, it was like, we're going to launch that
Bring
back
this
again.
back. Hey, I mean, it's popular. Yeah, I
I mean,
mean,
if it works and the people are asking for it, we want those back. We hated that you got rid of it. It's funny because I was talking to my, Shelly's, no, that would be her first cousin. But he's a young 17-year-old. And
Is there an old 17-year-old?
no, he's a young 17-year-old.
sorry.
So we were talking, and it would start off with video games, and he likes me because I know that kind of thing. But he starts saying, "I'm playing this and this." And I said, "Drew, I just don't play games as much as I used to." I mentioned you. I said that's to the consternation of my friend Sean, who's let's play. But we got to talking, and I said one of the things that got me away from it was how Fortnite becomes this exactly the same thing, where it's just a bunch of kids wanting to face hump you once they kill you. I said I long for games that tell me a story and I can go through them. It was the funny, and this is why I said young 17. We were all 17, obviously. We all had that I got the world figured out. He's like, well, those games are dead. They'll never be back. And I was like, trust me, they'll be back.
Wait till Star Wars is coming out with another one
I
that's
said
single
that to him,
player
too.
only. Yeah.
And then that open world game that they've been alluding to forever, that, you know, the more and more of those things, you know that as much as I do, how much it will flip back to what was
Yes.
before. Everything old
It's a
is new again.
pendulum, yeah.
And how do you make a 17-year-old? No, we'll never play that. I'm like, dude.
Excuse me, I've got to play with my Tamagotchi real quick.
That's right. I brought up the Furby earlier. Yeah.
At that point, you look at him, you're like, you don't realize you're about to age out of the generation that
Yeah.
matters. You
You're
don't
not gonna be
realize
cool anymore.
You're going to be about to be
True.
old.
Yeah.
You don't even realize
Your
that when
opinion's
it's-
about not to matter anymore.
I've talked about this periodically over the podcast time, but yeah, I see toys that were popular for a particular generation that was 13, 14, and 15 is
Coming
now
back.
coming back again, and they're buying the
Well, hell,
comics and they're
look,
buying the expensive
They're
toys.
doing
They're coming
a
back.
Power Rangers movie again with
Yeah.
the original Power Rangers. So who do you think's going to be watching that? The kids that watched Power Rangers when they were growing up.
Well, look at vinyl. Everything becomes digital.
do you think we're going to get 8-tracks back?
Fuck no. That is the worst
We
medium.
got cassettes back.
But I mean, my kid buys vinyl. That's what she wants on everything, and that tangible nature of it. And We all thought that would never
Never
come
come back.
back.
It's like,
And
we're all
I did. I
digital
got rid
now.
of all my stuff, and I really regret getting
I
all
do
of
too.
my stuff.
She's like, "Did you ever own this album? Yeah, can I have it? I don't know where the fuck that is. No, you can't.
Go to
So-
the record store and buy it for expensive now.
Oh, holy shit. She goes and buys it, and that shit can be expensive. But it's cool. I like her liking music, so I'm not going to bitch about it.
Yeah.
All right.
I think that may be it.
I think we hit it.
Richard, you got to go do some work. We actually churned through 2 weeks in no time, so that was kind of fun. We'll be back next week with a few more episodes, and guess what?
We're getting close
Right
to the
after
end.
that, it's the end of this movie, and we will move on with G and Gloy.
Use your words.
Glee and Joy.
I thought you were naming like a director.
I thought so too.
Glee and Joy as we step into the new movies. The last thing I'll throw at you, as always, we appreciate each one of you. Please spread the word. The viewership numbers keep going up and up. We love people listening. It helps us out. It helps us keep going. We don't ever ask for Patreon type things. We're not those kind of people. We take care of it. But hey, guess what? The more people you bring here, the more ad crap we get in return and the less we have to pay out of pocket. So we appreciate you guys for that. With that said, we'll see you next week. Everyone have a good one.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.